this now the podcast, is that just going out?
Hey, what's going on, good people's gardener, Douglas, your oyster ninja. I'm here today with Miss Kate from the Partnership for the Delaware Estuaries, and she is the fancy title Communication Coordinator. Is that right, Miss Kate?
That is, it's not that fancy, but I appreciate it all the same.
You got to throw titles where you can.
Yeah.
So, Kate, let's just start off real basic here.
Yeah.
For all the listeners, just tell us about Delaware, first of all, and what in the world is an estuary?
Okay, well, we get asked that question a lot, as a matter of fact. An estuary is where the river meets the sea. That's how we start off explaining it. It's a transitional area where salt water from the ocean meets and mixes with fresh water from a river. And so in our case, our area is the Delaware Bay, where the Atlantic Ocean comes into the Delaware Bay, and it meets and mixes with water from the Delaware River. So our area, so an estuary is a transitional zone. Our estuary area, we're part of a national estuary program that includes part of Pennsylvania. So it includes Philadelphia all the way up to Pottsville, and then a good chunk of southeastern New Jersey, so Trenton down to Cape May, and then the Delaware Bay, and then across down to Lewis, Delaware, most of Delaware.
Nice.
And our office is in Wilmington, Delaware. And as I said, so we're part of one of 28 national estuary programs, which it's a program from the Environmental Protection Agency. It's to restore the water quality and the ecological integrity of estuaries of national significance. So our area is the Delaware Bay and the Delaware River.
So, like, just in a general answer, I guess, how is that going? Because, and there's so much news about, pollutants and ecosystems failing and
Mm-hmm.
all, like, how is the restoration going?
That's a hard one to answer
It is.
because it depends on what you want to get into in terms of restoration.
Okay.
The Delaware River has actually come a long way from where it used to be even 30 years ago. As a matter of fact, this year the American Rivers Organization named it the Delaware River River of the Year, because years and years ago, it was terribly polluted, and boats, ships in the harbors would rust, and now it's open for activities. You can there's paddle boats over by Penn's Landing and the Independent Seaport Museum, where you can where you have been able to go on paddle boats, and the condition of the river has improved quite a bit. It's not perfect, but and we still have a ways to go, but it's better than it used to be.
Nice. So, what about, like, do you guys, I was looking on your site, and you guys do a lot of work with, like, the mussels
Mm-hmm.
and, of course, the oysters. Do you guys deal with like the seagrasses also?
We do. We deal with wetlands, so wetlands research, and uh, look and how that relates to sea level rise. The mussels, we've been working with mussel propagation, meaning that we are trying to increase the numbers, and we actually are hoping to build a large scale mussel hatchery. We have a laboratory at Fairmount Waterworks in Philadelphia, and we're hoping to build one, a larger one in Philadelphia, where we'd be able to hatch oysters as well, because oysters and that we would be able to hatch freshwater mussels. Freshwater mussels and oysters are nature's water filters, and so as they eat, they take in dirt and things like that, and they naturally filter the water just by how they eat.
So, oysters always get the limelight, I guess you could say. So mussels, they filter water also.
Mm-hmm.
So
They definitely do.
so is there a stat like, with oysters is 50 gallons?
Hmm.
So is there a stat for mussels also?
Yeah, so a healthy freshwater mussel can filter up to 10 gallons of water a day.
Beautiful.
And I recently saw where a healthy acre of oysters can filter the water equivalent to 36 Olympic-sized swimming pools per day.
Wow. We need more
That's, yeah, we
acres.
do. So yeah, so if you kind of wonder, well, yeah, oysters and mussels, they live in the water, but what does it have to do with the integrity of the water? Well, they're natural water filters, and people do eat the oysters, and they live in salt water, um, but it's all to the good that we can keep these animals alive and safe and healthy. In fact, freshwater mussels are imperiled creatures. They're not quite endangered yet, but they're imperiled.
I didn't know that. That's
Hmm.
pretty serious.
Hmm.
Now, why do you think that is? It's just the water content? I mean, the water,
Um, it
like,
is a myriad of things. Part of it is pollution. Part of it is overuse. But uh, but yeah, they need to be saved.
no doubt. Okay. Well, we gotta put
Yeah.
some work in.
And freshwater
Um,
mussels, yeah, just to let you know, so people wonder, well, if you can eat oysters, why not freshwater mussels? Freshwater mussels you don't want to eat. They're just not the kind that you want to eat. The kind of mussels that you do eat are the ribbed mussels, and those are in salt water also.
got you. Okay, so that's a big difference. I'm glad you
Hmm.
said something.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know that because I did a episode with Anacostia watershed or waterkeepers or something
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
And I don't think that question ever came up. Like, could you eat the mussels? I just figured you could.
Right. Ribbed mussels you can eat, but the
Hmm.
freshwater mussels you don't. And in fact, in Delaware, they are protected.
Right. Is that because of how the numbers are?
Part of it is numbers. Part of it is, again, you could get sick from eating them, because remember how I told you how they eat.
Right.
They take in, when they're eating stuff, they're taking in phytoplankton, and they're taking in all these different things to nourish them, but they're also taking in the bad stuff as well. So they hold on to things.
Got you.
So like oil spill and heavy metals and things like that, um, they're probably holding on to that, for years, because mussels, given the chance, can live a long time.
Hmm. Okay. So yeah, once we get them going and just let them do their thing, we should be all right, at least for
Right, right. I
10
mean,
gallons.
they also help hold, like a mussel bed can help hold soil in and the river bottom.
Cool. So can you just, I don't know if you, I'm just happy to have you on here, first of all, but like, could you just talk a little bit about the importance of seagrass?
Depends on what kinds of sea. So, are you talking about like wetland grass? Are you talking about Spartina?
See, you know more than me already. So whatever you want to talk about, that's what we can talk about.
Okay. I wish that one of my colleagues was here, because who our wetland specialist and our wetlands coordinator were here, because
We can save it for next time also,
I might, because
Yeah,
they'd be able to tell you a whole lot more and go like deep in terms of wetland grass.
that's no biggie. I got you on here and I just wanted to drain you for knowledge. So
No, no,
it's all
that's
good.
okay. But they have been doing. In fact, I did an article for our springtime newsletter, Estuary News,
Hmm.
that you can get online, about uh, some of the research that our wetlands team has been doing on grasses. They were doing these shade studies that have to do with Spartina in a wetland, and in the bigger picture, it it's part of research on sea level rise and the impact on wetlands, and how we get things like ghost forests, whereas the salt water comes in and it starts killing off trees.
See, I had never heard of that terminology. I need to do more research. That's all that means. I gotta
again,
stick.
I probably know just enough to get myself in trouble. They would be able to tell you so much more.
Right. Well, thank you so much. So
Yeah.
anyway, the reason why we're talking anyway, of course, I was on Instagram land, and I saw you guys were doing the 3-part series, and of course, the
Hmm.
oysters sparked my
Yeah.
interest at first. So I'm glad you guys had a successful event with that one. And is that rebroadcasted already?
It is, yeah. So we have that on our website. You can go to our website, www.delawareestuary.org, and you go to news and events, and there's a tab for What Lies Beneath, which is the name of the webinar series.
So
And so
next up,
yeah, yeah.
if you want to go into the next
Yeah.
episode, yep.
So next episode, the third episode in the 3-part series is going to be on horseshoe crabs. So we did freshwater mussels for the first one, oysters for the second one, and so our third one is going to be on horseshoe crabs. And our speakers are going to be Glenn Gauvrey and Alan Bergenson. And so Glenn Gauvrey is he is the founder of a program. He's first of all, he's a horseshoe crab expert, but he is the founder and director of the Ecological Research and Development Group, which is a wildlife conservation organization. And the mission of that is the conservation of horseshoe crabs.
Now that's another fancy title, I tell you.
Well, I guess if you're the founder and director of something, then you can give yourself whatever title you want.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but he is an expert on horseshoe crabs. And then Alan Bergenson, he is the global subject matter expert in testing solutions, or for testing solutions, and he's also the chair for the Horseshoe Crab Advisory Panel. So for the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, I was getting that off of his bio there because I couldn't remember all of his titles.
No worries.
So they're going to talk about horseshoe crabs and just all these different things about these amazing creatures that predate the dinosaurs, and
That's
that
amazing.
have stayed the same since dinosaur days.
Right, that says a lot.
And the fact that they have this amazing blue blood that is used in medical testing and could possibly end up being a component. They're talking about using horseshoe crab blood as a component in the development of a vaccine for COVID-19.
God bless horseshoe crabs.
Yeah.
Good gosh.
Delaware, so there's different types of horseshoe crabs. The American horseshoe crab looks sort of like a helmet. It looks like a helmet with a tail. And they're actually more closely related to spiders than they are to actually crabs. They're related to like spider scorpions, so they're arthropods.
Right.
And they have these little spiky tails that they're completely harmless. They kind of seem a little weird looking to people if they don't know what they're looking at, but they are fascinating, and they're humble, gentle creatures, and they have this amazing blood that has been used for years in medical testing.
That's wonderful. That's great.
There is more of them. There's more of the American horseshoe crab in Delaware than any other place in the earth.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. In the springtime, if you go to places like Slaughter Beach, Delaware, and if you're in New Jersey, you can go down to the Delaware Bay beaches there, and you might see migratory shorebirds like red knots or turnstones, and what they're doing is they are feeding on horseshoe crab eggs. The red knots, they will fly from the very southern tip of South America, all the way to the Arctic. And on their way, they feast on horseshoe crab eggs and other things for nourishment to help them survive the flight and to help them survive until their food source becomes more plentiful in the Arctic. And that's where the birds go to start their own families.
That's cool.
So yeah, so there's this strange relationship between these migratory shorebirds and the horseshoe crabs that are more plentiful in Delaware and on the Atlantic coast than any other place.
So when is this going live?
So this year's has already taken place. It usually goes from March or April until about May, and then they're done.
Okay.
And that is so. And then when the birds are in Delaware, that's when horseshoe crabs come up to the shore to lay their eggs. So the birds are feasting on the horseshoe crab eggs.
Do we eat horseshoe crabs?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right. I thought I'd ask for the people in the back, not for me.
Right. No, again, they are not actually. We call them crabs, but they're actually more closely related to spiders and scorpions in terms of genes.
Right. Got you. All right. So when is the webinar?
The webinar is going to be at noon on Tuesday, which is August the 25th. And you can register by going to our website. Again, that's www.delawareestuary.org. And you can just sign up there. We also have social media posts up where we try to put the registration link in there. So you can go to Twitter, you can go to Facebook, you can go to our link tree and our Instagram and get the link there. So any of those places. And then if you happen to miss it, we will put it up on YouTube. So that's where you can see, and our website. So if you miss it, you can go to YouTube or our website to see the webinar that way.
So I didn't tell you, I don't think I said anything about it, but with your oyster webinar, what I wanted to do was give away 3 oyster knives.
Oh.
So, but if it's not too late, the offer is still out there. So I don't know how you can do it with, whoever, I don't know, registers or however you want to do it. You guys can do it. Just let me know where I got to send them to.
Okay. Well, let me talk to the team about that and see what they say.
Boom. There it is.
Yeah. And we'll figure it out.
Yep. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you for taking time out. I don't think this wasn't too hard, was it?
No, not at all. In fact, the time is flown.
How about it? Yeah, I'm looking at the clock myself. I'm like, wow, okay, all right, there it is. So yeah, for if anybody wants to volunteer, I guess in the state of Delaware, where can they find out where they can go and sign up?
To volunteer about the oyster shells.
With the oyster shells, with your partnership, whatever.
Yeah. So
how can we help you guys out?
Yeah. So you can contact me. I'm Kate Layton, and I'm the communications coordinator. That's KLAYTON at DelawareEstuary.org. So we also have a oyster shell bagging program. So we're always looking for volunteers to help with that, because what we have an agreement with a number of restaurants around in Delaware, where we provide the bins, and the restaurants will put used oyster shells into those so that they don't go in the trash. And what happens is we collect them. They go to our shell recycling area, and then we end up and then we bag up the oyster shells and we use them in shore restoration projects and oyster habitat projects. It's really helpful, and the shells just go back into nature where they came from. And so we're always looking for volunteers to help with that. And you can contact Sarah Boboulis, and that's SBOUBOULIS at DelawareEstuary.org.
Just for any new listeners that might have stumbled on to us, Why are oyster shells really so important to the environment, and why you guys choose to use the oyster shells to rebuild, to restore?
Well, that's a good question. So oysters, in terms of rebuilding habitat, oysters need a hard surface or hard substrate on which to expand their own habitat, expand their beds. So they that will include building the oyster beds and attaching to a hard substrate, including other oyster shells. So that's one thing. And then the oyster shells, when we put the oyster shells in bags, they also help in terms of shore erosion mitigation. So, um, you know, the water comes up and it laps on the shore, and eventually you've got this erosion on our shores. And so we have living shoreline projects all throughout our area, and the oyster shells help to protect against that erosion.
You get a 100 on the test. That is perfect. All right. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
and hopefully, I'm gonna go ahead and register too. I haven't registered yet, so I'm gonna go ahead
Oh,
and register, and I'm gonna learn about some horseshoe crabs.
that's excellent. And this is a free webinar. So, and it's actually family friendly. We've heard from a mom whose 7 or 8 year old son has been tuning in to the webinars. So that was great to hear. And so if you want to tune in, you'll learn a lot.
For sure, this could be like science class, right?
Yeah, yeah. Definitely. Except I think what they try to do is they get sort of technical,
Mhm.
and so basically whatever your level is, whether you're a beginner or whether you have a lot more knowledge about it, um, we have something for your level of interest and for
Cool.
your level of knowledge.
So, what I know we have the horseshoe crabs. Is there anything else we should be looking out for in the near future?
Let's see. I'm not sure what our next series is going to be on for webinars, but we are getting ready to have our uh, Delaware River Fest, or we're going to have that online.
Hmm.
And so if you go to delriverfest.org or delawareriverfest.org, then we'll have more information posted there on a regular basis.
Cool. That sounds fun.
Yeah,
Online.
so yeah, and that it's actually going to be sort of a hybrid festival. We usually hold it once a year at Penn's Landing and in across the river in Camden. But because of COVID, we're going to have a virtual festival this year, and it's going to have a combination of in-person activities and virtual activities.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for all the information.
Thank
And
you.
of course, I'll be reaching out to you, and we'll be talking to see who can win some oyster knives.
Excellent. Yep. So yeah, stay in touch and
For
register
sure.
for the webinar.
No doubt. I will, and they will. I hope. All right. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Thank you.